Yahya Abdul. My matric number is 266490. So today I would like to present to you a private bank in Ukraine. So the private bank Ukraine was established in 7 February 1992. The bank's employee is more than 2,422 employees. The bank was nationalized at the end of 2016 and it had become the largest private bank in Ukraine. As of today, more than 22 million customers have opened their account in the bank. It served about 60% of the transactions and half of the payment cards issued by Ukraine. And 40% of the deposits of the entire bank system are concentrated in it. So, commercial bank, private bank is the leader of the Ukraine's banking market, according to the research by the CBR Ukraine. As of the fourth quarter of the 2020, 62 of the Ukrainians at the age of 16 cooperate with the private bank, and 49.4 of the users of the bank users call it the private bank their main bank. So, which is important than the total quantity of the regular customers of the 20 banks that follow. So, private bank is one of the world's most innovative bank. Over 10 years ago, the bank was among the first banks that started using one-time SMS password. Among the recent innovations recognized all over the world, there are such products as payment mini terminals, like login internet bank using QR code, online cash collection, and dozens of different mobile applications. So, I would like also to tell you about the people who stolen and led the private bank about the corruption. The two persons which are Ihor Komunitsky and Kennedy Bolipoy, who stolen about 70 million of the private bank's cash. So I would also like to we also have our friends who will discuss about the matters about the scandal of the private bank, impacts of the auditors involvement of the private bank. So we will see about what they say about the reaction and how they reflect about this scandal of the private bank.
Hi guys!
Have any of you guys heard about the news regarding the private bank scandal?
Yes!
Private bank scandal? I heard about it.
Does this impact anyone?
According to the news, this private bank scandal has given a bad impact on the auditors of the bank. Since PwC is the official auditor of the private bank, it has been affected by this embezzlement scandal of private bank. One of the major impacts faced by PwC is the removal of PwC audit license by the National Bank of Ukraine. The National Bank of Ukraine has removed PwC as one of the authorized accounting firms in auditing banks in Ukraine on the basis that PwC has verified the misrepresented financial statement of private bank that have a $5.5 billion balance sheet hole in its audit opinion. The second impact faced by PwC is the litigation case. This is because PwC has been sued by the private bank for $3 billion on the basis that it has failed in identifying the irregularities in the private bank's financial statements. Besides, private bank also filed a lawsuit against PwC as compensation for its losses due to the PwC's severe breaches of duties as auditors when auditing the private bank financial statements.
Wow, I thought if this case happened, it will impact the company, the private bank. But now, it's impact the auditor of the private bank. So, what did the auditor actually done? And what is their involvement actually in this case?
From what I have read, Actually, PwC was in charge of auditing private banks' financial reports from the mid-1990s until it was nationalized in December 2016. The Central Bank of Ukraine claimed that the audit report issued by PwC Audit has failed to highlight private banks' credit risk exposure, which has caused the bank being insolvent and nationalized. The state has to bear significant recapitalization costs too. Also, did you guys know that the Ukrainian Central Bank also claimed that PwC has failed to become the third line of defense in terms of the use of depositors' funds? The funds were drained from the bank via related party lending. PwC was said to have made no attempt to investigate or challenge Privat's method of fund sourcing. The comparison between EY audit of private banks' balance sheet capital to a previous assessment by PwC also shows a huge difference, about $6 billion. Besides that, the director of the Risk Assessment Department at the National Bank of Ukraine also stated that PwC has been providing assessment of asset and audit services both at the same time. According to the international standards, PwC should not be performing these two activities at the same time because it represents a conflict of interest. And guess what, guys? Not only that, the auditors of PwC will also claim to have failed their responsibilities in detecting the risk of fraudulence happening in private bank. However, PwC defended themselves by stating that they were not responsible for whatever changes made after the audit opinion was issued by them on June 30. The new management of Private Bank did not adjust any figures relating to 2015 in Private Bank's 2016 financial statements. According to PwC, the events reported in the 2016 financial statement that happened after they signed the 2015 accounts might have had a crushing impact on the financial situation of Private Bank.
I also heard that the auditor has failed to identify the ongoing operation of a massive fraud inside the private bank over a long period. This is because the forensic audit on the private bank has discovered that the private bank was the victim of extensive organized fraudulent actions that lasted at least 10 years and resulted in a loss of at least $5.5 billion.
Don't these auditors need to follow certain ethics code in doing auditing?
Of course, from what I know, in the Auditor Ethics Code, there are 5 fundamental principles of professional ethics, which are integrity, objectivity, competence and due care, confidentiality, and also professional behavior. But somehow, I don't think PwC auditors follow these principles because, from what I heard, PwC was said to have made no attempt in investigating or challenging Privat's method of fund sourcing. This statement was made after comparing recent EY audit of Privat Bank balance sheet capital to a previous assessment made by PwC. The comparison shows the different amount to $6 billion at that time exchange rate. Not attempting any investigation shows that PwC has ignored the fundamental principles in carrying out their work.
Is private bank cases can be classified as liability occurred under common law?
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, the case was under common law and it is classified as a breach of contract. Legal actions against the auditor under common law can be taken if it is a breach of contract, negligence, gross negligence or fraud factors. In this case, PwC failed to discover a material error or fraud occur in the company during the financial statement audit process, resulting the company facing misrepresentation of financial statement and suffer a huge amount of losses due to this unidentified fraudulent act. What surprised me the most is that the fraud has been ongoing for 10 years until it was nationalized in 2016. Failure in exercising reasonable skill and care, PwC constitute a breach of contract and claim for negligence by Privat Bank who suffer a financial losses of $5.5 billion.
Is there any fraud assessment guideline that can be used by the auditor?
Oh, about fraud assessment. It's been stated actually in ISA 240. It's also stated that fraud is actually can be interpreted as intentional act by someone in the management teams of the company to obtain its own illegal personal benefits. There's actually a very clear difference between fraud and error, because fraud is actually happen intentionally, while the error is actually happen unintentionally. There's also stated that there's two types of fraud, which is fraud from misappropriate of asset and fraud from misstatement, fraudulent financial statement. Let me share with you what actually auditor are required in ISA 240. PwC is actually failed to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement, which is PwC unable to detect 5.5 billion loss that occur in a private bank. Its failure to detect is actually would impact the decision of the user.
How did the auditor set the maturity and audit risk of the client?
Regarding the maturity, is actually auditor responsible in determine if the financial statement is actually mistake or not in terms of materiality. And then if there's misstatement, auditor should let the client to know about this issue. And then if the client is refused to take any actions, so what auditor can do is provide a qualified or an adverse opinion. As for audit risk, it's actually about risk that the auditor may provide unqualified opinion, which is a grade A opinion for the financial statement that have a material misstatement in there. This is because the complex or uncommon transaction is actually bound to have a mistake in the recording rather than the simple and the repeated transaction. And management also might omit a mistake in the profit or assets. The probability of misstatement will also be lower is if the internal control is higher. Means it's need to have a better internal control to control material misstatement from occur. In a private bank case, it shows that the management teams misuse their power and authority. They have omit mistake in the profit or the asset. PwC also failed to see if this private bank fund is actually flow through the related party, which means the ex-owner of private bank had made a borrowing from private bank to his company, but the transaction, the situation are failed to be detected by PwC.
I think we have gained new knowledge regarding this private bank scandal from our conversation. I think we should end here since I need to go. Bye everyone!
Okay guys, I also got to go now. See you later. Bye.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.